Having two Hexenzirkel members appear in human form was definitely not in my list for Luna 3, but that's not even the most surprising part, because the prophecy I've been raving about like a mad monk since before its release is finally coming true. Like the moon getting uncomfortably close to Nodcry and causing a flood, from the Wanderer's sudden involvement in a region he has no reason to visit, to Durin reappearing finally as Rubido, to the primordial mommy Alice and Nicole Rain stepping into the spotlight after years of being nothing but lanterns and teacups, and that's only from the main Archon quest. We've also got connections to Venti and Isaroth on the Secret Isle, and maybe even some added lore along with gameplay mechanics for older characters. That along with seeing Varka's possible connection to Nicole when he went to Lake Amsvartnir and the Sealy Kingdom, Columbina possibly being displaced thousands of years ahead of time, and culminating to the Frost Moon getting closer to Teyvat, as well as finally mentioning the Spiral Abyss Trilunar Syzygy in the main story through Columbina. Hey guys, what's up? Aru. It's been a while. Usually, big reveals are saved for the end of a region, but with Nodcry, the characters themselves were the reveals, and in Luna 3, they're bringing as much lore as they can from 1.0. So if you want to know about that and the little hints within the special program itself, then be sure to stick around. It's safe to say that one of the major upcoming story elements is the Moon Prayer Night Festival, an annual event when Kuvaki strengthens and the moon physically drifts closer to Teyvat. This instantly ties into the Welkin Moon teaser where we literally see the moon descending toward Nodcry. But here's something worth noting. Even though the teaser shows this dramatic moment, we shouldn't expect this scene to happen immediately in Luna 3. But we can expect the moon to get larger and larger in-game, but only after the border or the sky dome is shattered completely. Right now, Hoyoverse is still building up the cast we saw in the Welkin Moon teaser, with Durin and Yehoda joining the playable roster, and Alice and Nicole finally appearing, while Wanderer is more than likely setting a score with Dottore, the Welkin prophecy. The moment the old moon truly comes down and the new moon rises, needs the entire cast present and all the narrative pieces in place. And that includes the shades, hopefully. And by God, I want to see Renova in-game by the end of the Luna series. But based on the current pacing, the moon's descent will probably be reserved for the later half of Nodcry, most likely around Luna 9, which should land us at around 6.8, especially with Hoyo's new setup of the story for Nodcry moving forward. The Moon Prayer Night Festival itself is one of the most important traditions in Nodcry, and it becomes a central event in Luna 3. This is an event where Kuvaki becomes amplified and the Frost Moon naturally comes closer to Teyvat. But in this year's Moon Prayer Night Festival, we're told that the moon is already much closer than normal. In fact, its influence seems to drift towards something called the Verdant Crest, a massive Kuvaki tree that first appeared when Columbina was born 500 years ago. If you don't know what the Verdant Crest is, it's the same place you get the strong 4-star sword from a world quest that reveals dragon-related technology with the moons used by the Frost Moon Scions and Hyperborea. And that's not even the best part. See, the Verdant Crest has a strange parallel to Inazuma's sacred Sakura tree, not just visually, but in how it doesn't align with the timeline. This tree also appeared in that same temple that was already created thousands of years ago, the moment Columbina appeared and was air quotes born in Nodcry. This is exactly what happened with the sacred Sakura appearing in Inazuma, where everyone thought it already existed, even though it didn't yet. And the main culprit of that is going to be Isaroth, and she's also the likely culprit of that spaceship key and the Diridit Paradox, as well as our spaceship in Nodcry. So there's a very real possibility that Columbina and the Verdant Crest don't originate from this era. Hyperborean hymns and texts reference the Verdant Crest from as far as 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, yet in the present timeline, it only appeared 500 years ago. So this tree was recorded way older than it even existed for. This strongly suggests a displacement paradox involving Isaroth and Asmodee, similar to the sacred Sakura tree being moved through time. But this time it's Columbina and the Verdant Crest, which in a sense can be compared to the Sakura tree and Makoto's consciousness. But instead of something like the Archon having to understand the region like A, it's Columbina regaining her memory and real name, which has been mentioned throughout the Luna versions and is now a main point in Luna 3 Archon quest. The Hexenzirkel is heavily involved in Luna 3, especially with how Durin's character is framed. Everything about Durin becoming Rubido starts with a dying wish, a book that holds the seed of his future and the unresolved parts of his past. Durin's story is basically completing Rhindotter's final stage of the magnum opus and fulfilling M's dying wish. You may notice that Durin keeps touching his stone core in his human form, and the final form after his story quest includes his chest changing into a Philosopher's Stone. This is Rubido, a state of perfected self-actualization or self-transcendence. Funnily enough, Durin is the one who went through the magnum opus process and not Albedo, since Durin was the very first breakthrough of Granddaughter's experiments, which was followed by the failed experiments that he himself consumed, which classifies as Nigredo. Albedo happens when Albedo himself purified Durin into what he is today. Saturnitas is him completing M's storybook, which is self-discovery, and his final self-transcendence and final form is Rubido. Luna 3 also includes other members like Alice, Nicole, and Barbeloth. Alice and Nicole are in Nodcry because of the Trilunar Syzygy, and they seem to be delivering an ancient knowledge and a prophecy similar to what happened in Fontaine, but not in the worst way, which might be reflected in the Song of Nodcry. If you haven't watched my Song of Nodcry video, it basically explains all of the events happening in Nodcry right now. All of this ultimately connects to Columbina's potential rise as the new moon right after the flood of Nodcry. Meanwhile, Barbeloth, I can only guess, is connected to Mona and her investigation in Sumeru. Interestingly, Octavia is the only living witch still missing, which isn't really suspicious since she gave us the entire Miliastra Wonderland. But Hoyoverse is definitely saving her for something important, especially when it comes to other worlds and outer space, or what we call the sky beyond the sky. Now, just for a quick tangent and some details that I want to point out, Nodcry is also mentioned as the crossroads of fate, quite literally. Apart from just being the melting point of all regions, all the threads of fate converge here, which was shown way before Nodcry was released. Alice's letter about the 3 moons, and Nicole's prophecy narration in the Welkin Moon teaser. Nicole is especially important because fans are already noticing hints in the trailer that she might be a pyro user with a vision on her back. And I especially hope that she becomes a genuine light type of DPS. We already have Arlecchino as the Abyss Pyro and Mawika as the Elemental Pyro, so why not have a Celestial Pyro that's golden light damage? Or, a golden light shield. The Trilunar Syzygy is the main reason Teyvat's entire borders are destabilizing, and the main point of contact is going to be in Nodcry. This rare alignment of all 3 moons always occurs during Moon Prayer Night and causes the appearance of phantoms across the region. But it's important to understand that the Syzygy itself is not the moon drawing closer to Teyvat. These are 2 separate celestial events, but they do overlap during Luna 3, which makes everything significantly more unstable and harder to distinguish. Alice is actively maintaining Teyvat's border, trying to hold back whatever is pushing against it, and the phantoms appearing all around Nodcry aren't caused by the Frost Moon. These are the symptoms or the results of the border weakening and being affected by the moon and the abyss. And interestingly, the Frost Moon's influence exists beyond the border entirely, meaning something much larger than Moonlight or Kuvaki is affecting Teyvat, which I think is the Abyss, an energy that can siphon and consume Kuvaki to get more powerful, and of course the unpredictable results that come with it. The Trilunar Syzygy might just be an event where the Sky Dome opens up momentarily too, and allows both the Frost Moon and the Abyss inside. This makes more sense than what I initially thought was going to happen, where the fake sky is destroyed entirely, which is way more dramatic and permanent. For some clarification, the border of Teyvat is literally the fake sky dome, an artificial shell Celestia uses to isolate the world from the abyss and the outside. Anything outside this dome is abyssal energy and outer space, which we've already seen from Skirk's story quest in her outer space asteroid house. The fact that the Frost Moon is located beyond this dome means that the abyss is actively eroding it while it's still barely alive. And it makes sense why Columbina is constantly losing her power as well, since the abyss is consuming her physical moon. This gives more context to the golden platform we saw in God's Limits teaser. The location where the shades meet is likely outside the dome entirely, which is why the light feels alien and wrong, gold and not bluish-white like Columbina. What I still don't know is that if the border of Teyvat is the same as the border we've come to know from both Natlan and Liyue, as well as other likely regions which are borders of the dead that draw in abyssal monsters whenever border incidents occur. And it's likely that Venti's quest with Isaroth is going to introduce us to Mondstadt's own version of the border as well. Now, the Hexerei quests act as a new system to upgrade older characters while adding more lore to them. The people they specifically chose technically create a new future fate for these characters. Interestingly, there are 8 Hexerei and 7 witches, with Granddaughter watching over Albedo and Durin. So it's possible that each Hexerei is going to complete a task from a specific witch. Mona, likely for Barbeloth, investigates Sumeru's doorway to Conria, which leads into a massive forge beneath the kingdom, which I think also leads to the main city through through that entrance, Albedo for Rhindaughter tackling his unresolved questions about Rhindaughter, possibly about the primordial human project, or her own identity as a being between sinner and shade. Durin's homework is obviously for Andersdaughter, focusing on his dual existence as an Abyss Dragon and Simulanka Dragon and finishing his storybook. Razor might just be doing a task for Ivanovna, who was Snezhnayan, which is also Hyperborea, ergo Boreas. Razor seems to be defending Boreas' domain and might reveal more info about Hyperborea's past. Lee is obviously for Alice and, well, we're probably going treasure hunting and committing war crimes again. Sucrose might also be for Rhindaughter since she's Albedo's assistant, who returns to Dragonspine and study the infected Whopper Flower mimic connected to Durin, which technically shouldn't exist because there shouldn't be any more abyssal infection there. Unless that's Subject 3. Vishal is an interesting case since she might actually be for Octavia, especially with her fantasy stories and other worlds. The unified civilization was humanity's first great empire under the primordial one. Its surviving architecture is seen in Enkanomiya, the Chasm, and some ruins across every nation. For Luna 3, the most relevant region is Hyperborea, which was originally called Prekrasnaya in the beta, meaning the land of beauty or the warm golden kingdom far north, which is wildly different from the far northern land today. Hyperborea was once a paradise blessed by the primordial one until its people became too ambitious and created the Snowland Fae using frost moonlight and giant bones. You can think of it as something similar to Salvin Dagnir, but way up north. This sinful act led to a disaster, from a rebellion to going up in flames, to the fall of celestial nails, and ultimately turning the far north into the frozen wasteland it is today. The phantoms appearing in Luna 3 actually resemble the sin shades of Enkanomiya, which were manifestations of time created by Isaroth. This confirms that Nodcry is experiencing a similar border erosion to Enkanomiya paired with the moments favored by Isaroth. Enkanomiya being outside of the border explains the phantoms as well. Light mode is basically when it's daytime and the moon can't shine its influence, and night mode is when the moon can reveal pieces of the past. This might also mean that there will be longer nights in the game, which explains the long night of Project Stuzha. But we'll talk about that once Luna 3 actually releases. But honestly, the combined effects of the Abyss, the Frost Moon, and the Trilunar Syzygy is basically a smorgasbord of anomalies. Columbina's true name is also a central plot point here. As a moon maiden theoretically displaced in time, her name carries a divine function, sort of like a code, and it's very similar to Simulanka, where names determine a role for a character. The Moon Sisters are also the same. Their actual names might not even be Arya, Canon, and Sonnet, since the iridescent moon calls Columbina Hypo, thinking that she's the Frost Moon goddess. But whatever her name is going to be, Columbina's name will determine how she ascends as the moon goddess of this era and what the true plan of the moons were thousands of years ago. One of the biggest twists is the possibility that our own spaceship is also a phantom, which is why I think Isaroth has a hand in our spaceship specifically. In Enkanomiya, for something to become a phantom, it must be chosen by Isaroth specifically. It then reappears as a ghost that doesn't remember its name or past, which opens up 3 questions. Did the ship die? Was it stolen or moved? Or was it favored by Isaroth and relocated into another dimension and now only appears here as a phantom through ley lines? This also connects directly to Columbina and the Verdant Crest, reinforcing the theory that displacement is a gimmick often used by Celestia and the Shades to clean up any of their problems. And once they clean everything up, the Irminsul tree is what changes history for them, or at least the memory of history. Last but definitely not the least, Wanderer didn't come to Nodcry randomly. Officially, he's here to help stabilize the Trilunar Syzygy and repair the border alongside Durin, Alice, and Albedo. He's also seen reconnecting with former Harbingers, which is going to be an interesting interaction on its own, but his real reason is simpler. He's looking for the Torre. And we all know what happened with the Torre and Scaramouche. Now, it's also possible that Nahida sent him after the moon-related events in Sumeru, which directly ties to the mysteries of the moon, the Abyss, and Teyvat's past. The Torre specifically might also be the real hand of the Research Bureau on the Eternal Moon's remains. And that pretty much brings us to where all of this is heading, the final Welkin teaser. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that scene for a long while. Hoyoverse is definitely saving that moment for the very end of Nodcry, and with the pacing we have right now, it's probably going to be one of those everything finally connects together kind of reveals. But in the meantime, I actually have 2 special videos planned, both about Duet Night Abyss because I really want to finish that breakdown before Luna 3 drops, and right after those we'll be prepping videos specifically when Luna 3 releases. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed the breakdown and you want to see more deep dive lore content like this, then be sure to drop a comment below, leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell, and let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, yeah? And as always, stay mad theorists. Bye!